We're live.
Okay, so we are back in public session, and is there any unfinished business? Seeing that there's no unfinished business, we're going to go for the approval of the minutes. We have the regular meeting minutes from September 15th and the executive session minutes from September 15th. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second? Okay. Any discussion?
Motion?
Yeah, Debbie was one,
Okay,
and Spencer was a second.
It was me.
thank you.
All right, any discussion? All right, roll call then.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Antcliffe?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Carrazza?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Tadona?
Yes.
Dr. Kehoe is absent. Motion carries.
Okay, it's now time for public comments on agenda items only. In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act, we will open the public comments for agenda items only at this time. Since we're virtual, I will read them. As long as they're around 3 minutes, then we'll go. And as always, we expect comments to be respectful. All right, at this point, it seems like there are no public comments. We'll wait a minute or two just to see.
Can we get the Jeopardy theme song maybe a little bit?
Okay, I don't see any public comments, so we will maybe deal with them at the end if any come in. All right, so moving to presentations, we have a report from Ms. Young on the hearing, a public hearing on Student Safety Data System Incident Report.
Great. I'm going to share my screen because we combined our presentations. So
Oh, excellent.
I will give this a whirl. So is the PowerPoint up for Ms. LeDuc Young? Is that visible?
Yes.
It is.
Oh, fantastic. Ms. LeDuc Young, it's all you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I hope everyone's having a nice evening. So tonight I will be reporting our numbers from last year, from 2019-2020. So our SSDS report, obviously it gets reported every year in October for the previous year. And we basically take a look at numbers and we compare the previous years to see, you know, what areas are we struggling and what areas have we improved and what we can do moving forward to improve those areas. So what gets reported, obviously you see here, all of these categories have a breakdown. So violence has a breakdown. So it could be an assault, a fight, vandalism. There's a ton of breakdowns. So it could be something minor or something major. Weapons, wide range. So it could be anything from a knife to a gun. And then substance abuse falls under use, possession, distribution, and HIB obviously are the incidents that were investigated as well as the ones that were confirmed. So these are our numbers from the previous years. So the tricky part about last year is that obviously we ended in March. So we can't determine what the rest of the school year was going to look like. You know, we started off the year. I know that we did start a new program. We utilized our former EDGE program and we tried to expand upon it. So Mr. Van Orden, who was here last year, and I started off the school year with really trying to get into an in-depth idea of what we wanted that program to look like to benefit our students. I will say that we have a new SAC counselor and we kind of have a new organization of our room 120 that really assisted with the substance area. So I think that number, the 26 to 14, I definitely think we would have been under 26 towards the end of the year because from December up until March, had barely any numbers. So we saw a huge improvement in the substance area, which I was really proud of. So that's just a comparison from the last couple of years. These are specific numbers. It's a breakdown of how many assaults we had, fights, how many threats, occasions of sexual contact, possession of a weapon, so on and so forth, confirmed use, possession, distribution, and incidents of vandalism for last year up until March. Oh, that number is missing. So the number investigated was 14. Should be there. Number investigated was 14. The number confirmed was 5. That was another number that decreased. I definitely think that implementing what we did last year was we tried to do a lot of peer mediation to decide whether or not it was a personal conflict versus a HIB. So one HIB came out, I think everybody jumped automatically to saying, oh, it's a HIB. I'm getting harassed. I'm getting intimidated. And when you really look at the definition of what a HIB is and what it entails, a lot of times it really is just a personal conflict. And so we spent a lot of time last year trying to do peer mediation between students to resolve the issue. It was documented. And then if anything, popped up further, or there was anything else that came from parents or students, whatever it may be, and we had to open up an investigation, we did. So that was definitely a number that I saw an improvement in due to, I think, a team effort, not with just guidance and CST and our counselors in 120, but Mr. Van Norden and I just kind of sitting down and helping our students build relationships with each other, whether or not they were friendships, but we always said you don't have to be friends, but you can be respectful and cordial. And I definitely think it benefited us in the long run. So this is huge. Like, they need us more than ever now. And I know that a lot of times people look at our roles and they say, well, there's not that many students in the building, so it's probably easier. You're probably not seeing it as much. And that actually scares me when you're not seeing it as much, because you don't know what's going on with the students that are at home or what's going on behind screen. I think overall, obviously it's a global situation where students are in a completely different paradigm, dealing with completely different issues that are affecting their schoolwork, their ability to attend school online, their ability to socialize with their peers. And so I really tried to sit down and think, like, what are we going to do moving forward to support these students that are not in the building, not the ones that are just in the building, but specifically the ones that are not in the building. So relationships. How do we build them behind a screen? And so Mr. Talame and I, we're constantly trying to, we schedule Google Meets with our team of student council students. And basically we ask them for their feedback, because they're the ones that are in the trenches. They're the ones experiencing what's going on. They're the ones that hear and see things that we don't have the opportunity to see. So getting that feedback from our students is crucial. So building those relationships with our students, pushing towards our counselors. I mean, our counselors have intense schedules of meeting with students daily, connecting with them, trying to figure out what's going on, how's your attendance, why is your attendance good or bad. Just overall building relationships with our students is something that we're really trying to focus on, so that they can trust us. It's hard when you've never met a student in person, for these students that are all virtual, to know what they're feeling and what works for them if you've never had those interactions. So it's definitely something new, but making sure that we're consistently reaching out and trying to connect. School climate team is working with us as well. So last year they were on like an uprise of really trying to get involved in the school and build that school culture and climate. And now that we're not all in the building, it's becoming a little difficult. So they've kind of paired up with student council. There's an overlap in students, but there are some students that aren't in both, and trying to create activities and events that draw students in, right? Because right now our kids are at home. They're not really into the school spirit because they're not in the building as often. And we're trying to figure out, how do we build that school spirit while being so far apart, right? Teacher coach is something that we just implemented. It's mainly for teachers right now, but there is a student component and there is a parent component that we are hopeful to look into once we push out the first aspect of it, which is to teachers. But I truly believe that if our teachers are feeling comfortable and confident and are feeling good about themselves, that's going to come out in their classroom, and then their students are going to feel it, right? And so good teaching provides good learning. And so we're hopeful that any teacher who's looking for some type of resource or support can possibly utilize the teacher coach platform. Pass It Along is still active. We're working with all of our advisors from our clubs to try to figure out how we get students involved if they can't truly interact with each other inside the building. So Pass It Along is meeting weekly, building relationships with their students and seeing what they can provide to the building, given the certain circumstances and restrictions. So our INRS and our referral process is up and running again. So we do have our referral process pushed out to teachers, where they can send out a referral for a student that they're concerned about. That referral then goes and it webs out to specific people that it should go to. So for example, attendance would go towards me. If it's an academic issue, it would go towards the supervisors. If it is a substance or, emotional, social aspect of it that the student is struggling with, it would go to Mrs. Imhoff or Mrs. Whalen. And then basically we work as a team to see what kind of plan we can put in place to support these students. So that referral process is crucial because it lets us know those students that maybe I don't see in my office because they're a lot more quiet, but that teachers are catching and are referring to us. Parents, so we're hoping that with this referral program, we can get parents involved and let them know how their child is doing with communicating with us and working through whatever process or plan we put in place for them. Classroom visits and presentations, Week of Respect, just Violence Awareness Week just passed. Teachers, we asked them to, do a small snippet, especially with the world that we're living in right now and the global situation, not only when it comes to the pandemic, but just the political and all of those issues that are going on. We were hopeful that teachers had the ability or the time, because I know time is crucial right now, to have some type of activity or presentation to their students about violence awareness. Save and Pride, both of those clubs are consistently focusing on students against violence everywhere. That's Save. And with Pride, I mean, Mrs. Lembo is doing a phenomenal job with keeping her kids involved and active and participating with anything that the Center of Prevention sends out to have our kids active, even if it's online. She's constantly trying to get them involved with that. Mr. Talamay, Mass to Mass Fridays. So connections, right? So we always say we see smiling eyes now instead of a smiling face. So on Fridays, John tries to put out there, instead of sending an email, try and stop by. We have our mask on, we're socially distant, but stop by and say hello if you have a question or you want to communicate. The big thing that I just started and I am super dedicated to, and it was something that I think teachers absolutely wanted us to do. And it's we call them wellness / attendance / just checking up on you / where have you been visits. And so like today, I completed 6 of them. It's difficult because we live in a district where it's not a large population, but the land area, the coverage is huge. So it took me 2.5 hours to do 6 home visits today. But I was very happy that 5 out of the 6, they opened the door, they spoke to us, they responded to us. I think it was a little bit of an eye opener to some of these kids who are thinking, wow, not only someone at home that cares about me, but there's somebody in school that cared enough to drive out here. And we weren't knocking on doors saying, hey, just to let you know, we can file truancy. No, that wasn't the case. We were knocking on doors saying, where have you been? We want you back. We're really worried about you. And please let us know what we can do to support you, because it is crucial that you are engaged in an educational platform right now. You need it. And we want you there. So I did 6 yesterday. I think in total, I've done, I don't know, maybe close to 15 so far. I have another 7 tomorrow, and we're just going, we're knocking on doors, and parents are opening and they get a little nervous because they're like, are we in trouble? And I think that we're realizing as a whole that in our community, we have students that are struggling economically. They're obviously struggling socially, and there are things that are out of our control and beyond our control. But the fact that they know somebody cares I truly think will make all the difference. I got an email saying, thank you so much. I know you stopped by. I'm so sorry. I will be there tomorrow. And I'm like, that's great. Even if it's 1 out of 6 that sent me an email saying that I'm going to try my best to be online and be there, it makes the difference. So we're definitely working together. We're taking as much advice as we can from teachers who are making suggestions and recommendations. Like I said, the wellness visits, I had started them in the beginning for the kids with just attendance issues. And then a teacher had reached out and said, can we not, we should be knocking on doors. I'm like, I'm trying. And now I'm realizing it's not for just the kids that are lacking in attendance, but just the kids overall that are falling under that RTI referral process of students that are struggling. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask or anything like that. Hopefully I can answer you. And if I talk really fast, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you. That was, that's impressive that you're going out and knocking on those doors. I like that. That's good.
Yeah, it's a great idea, and I think it's incredibly important. So I like that you're doing that. Thank
we
you.
figure out a map. So we do a map, and we today we figured out, okay, we'll cover there's kids that are in Wantage and in Sussex Borough, and then we have to do Montague separate. Because if we don't do a map, if you drive to Montague, then back to Wantage, then back to Montague, it'll be. So yeah, we have a map going on, and hopefully, we're hitting kind of what we would call the heavy hitters first, and then just working on those kids that are just kind of, just need a little love. That's all they need. And so hopefully, if it impacts a handful, it impacts more than none. So.
Well, thank you for doing that. That's good.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I'm here for. So thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Leduc Young. All right, and we said we have no student council report.
I can report on the student council. She's not here, but just
Okay, great.
We're working together to try to figure out what we can get done due to the certain circumstances. They're consistently meeting. The kids are anxious, and we're doing what we can do to get them involved. So Mrs. Schaefer is doing a nice job.
Great. Okay, and I believe I saw Miss Mancuso for the HPEA update or report.
Yes, how we doing, folks? I hope everybody's well and feeling okay.
Yep.
This is the life of a teacher. Now my glasses are fogging up. So our union meeting was yesterday, and I'm going to take my mask off because I'm exhausted. I'm very exhausted. And I am speaking for the members that were at the meeting, and they employed me to speak for them. This is no disparaging against you or our administration. This is a new paradigm, as I'll use Dr. Ripley's word. It's a new paradigm that changes every day. There's nothing normal right now. The teachers are exhausted. Some of them have 7 preps and go home and still have to be on the computer. So imagine being on the computer with that mask on half a day and then going back for the afternoon session and then still having to plan. We're not complaining. It's just, it's exhausting. It's socially, emotionally exhausting. And I believe at the beginning of this year, we were going to concentrate on social, emotional growth and health. And I'm worried about the teachers, and I'm worried about myself, and I'm worried about everybody that's involved with this. We can't catch up and change. I understand we need to change to make sure things are happening and whatnot, but we just got kids on to be involved in signing on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's what's normal to them. That's what's normal to all of us. And I understand that, okay, teachers might want to make up this and make up that, but when you change something, it throws a wrench into everything. And these are not normal times. So the teachers just want to say that they're trying their best. It's not because we're not trying. It's overwhelming, very overwhelming. And I don't care what anybody says. If you're not in the classroom with the mask on, dealing with what we have to deal with, you don't understand it. Again, that's what they wanted me to relate. We appreciate everything that's been done for us. And it's crazy at this point in time. And I spoke to Dr. Ripley, and he agrees that, we need Google training with experts because that's our platform. Mm-hmm. We're inundated with, all right, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Meanwhile, as anyone knows, when you multitask and we have 3 to 4 tech issues going on in a classroom, laptop, stationary computer, smart board, telephone, teaching to virtual, 3 concepts you hear: virtual, A/B kids, A kids, B kids. It gets overwhelming. And then when the kids don't come in for when they're supposed to be in for A because they missed the bus or they didn't get up, whatever, or because there was a schedule change, they forgot, it's difficult. So we're constantly on trying to catch up. That's from the teachers. We also need a plan for hardware. I mean, some teachers at this point in time have taken it upon themselves, which I applaud them, to get 3 quotes so they could have cameras that are on their laptop that bring in the kids that are virtual and that are at home learning virtually to hear replies from the kids that are in class and whatnot. I'm trying to keep this simple, but it's not simple. So going forward, I think we all need to be able to sit down and say, all right, let's order 50 cameras. Let's do that. I don't know what's needed. The teachers don't know what's needed. I don't know if the administration knows what's needed because it's a new paradigm. It's a new paradigm here. Also, they're going, when there's change, you got to understand you're trying to correct things, but there's unintended consequences for everything in our lives. So I don't know about you, but 2 o'clock this morning, the stupid dog got skunked. So I was up at 2 o'clock this morning, washing the dog with peroxide and baking soda and soap to neutralize that. Meanwhile, my kids went to school. As I'm in school, an administrator didn't call to say they smelled like skunk. So they were ridiculed the whole day. So we all have our own separate lives going on here also. We have, I'm taking care of an older mother, and we all have this. So we are all families here, and it gets overwhelming. And the teachers are saying it's overwhelming because they can't catch up. They feel like they're not doing a good job. And it's not anybody's fault because this is crazy. But we need people to have the empathy and understand that we don't want to fail students. We don't want students to fail. But when you make a change, it throws everything in out there. So I'm sorry I'm taking so much time, but I've been a little miscombobulated because I smell like skunk myself right now. Mr. Percy, my office mate, was a little upset this morning, but I took a shower. Sorry, didn't neutralize it. But we all have these personal things going on. And the teachers want to do a good job, and they are doing a good job. It's just, it's October, and I feel like it's February. They feel like it's February. They really do. And I, I've never seen young teachers and older teachers actually break down and cry. And I don't want to cry right now. We're all living through this together. It's just, you need to know that, they're trying. We're all trying here. But the social emotional thing is pertinent at this point in time. And I'm very concerned, and so are the teachers. And there's just one other thing that I want to bring up, and they voted. There were 61 members yesterday, and I didn't have a chance to meet with Dr. Ripley, but there were 61 members yesterday, and they are concerned about the HVAC system. And I did Oprah, Dr. Kehoe gave me advice to Oprah for information, and I wanted the anemometer readings for the HVAC systems. That's the only way you can tell. And this is no fault of anybody's, because this is the way the state set it up also. Dr. Ripley signs off that the school is okay and safe to go. And it goes to the county office, and then it goes to the state. But the thing is, we need to know, is there data out there that tells us that the HVAC is working? For example, I have an anemometer myself, because this is what I use at home to make sure that I know that I'm changing my filters on time for my HVAC system and also for my whole house system. It's an easy thing to do. It's probably not required, but staff feels that they want data to say that every room, every bathroom, every office is working properly. We know that it's been signed off and everything's okay, but I did open requests for the anemometer readings of the classrooms in certain offices, and it came back, no records responsive to your request. Thank you, Mrs. Pavlicek. That was right there. Is there any of that information that's there, or is there anything way we can provide of that information to our staff so we all feel safe? Not saying that I don't want to close the school. Nobody wants to close a school, but if there's a problem, we want to remediate it. So that's what the membership is concerned about and wanted you to hear as our employers to assure us that we are safe in the building. And we know that all the records have gone through and everybody has checked off the boxes, but airflow in a particular room must go 4 times within the hour, 4 to 5 times cleared within the hour, fresh air and whatnot. That's all we want to know, that that's working properly. We know we have the systems that are in place, but we want to know if they're working properly or not. And so that's what came out of our meeting. We appreciate all that you do. We hope that we all stay well. We know you're there for our students and ourselves, and we will move on. And thank you for your support. So if I can just, at some point in time, get from Dr. Kehoe if our requests will be, submitted and supplied. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. I don't quite understand what you're, like, you got something from the Oprah, but that wasn't what you wanted?
No, there were no raw data as to if those units were working to what the manufacturer says that they're supposed to be working to.
So, Mrs. Mancuso, so I gather that you're overwhelmed and you're communicating that the teachers are overwhelmed, and believe us, we're empathetic to that. But you started off by saying you were imploring us, and I was waiting for something to be asked. And after about 10 minutes, I think that's when we finally got to the HVAC. Is that really what you were looking for, is just the data on the HVAC?
Oh, no. It's just, we don't want to be complainers. I mean, every day we're inundated with information. I mean, we're on we have cell phones that our emails are coming through. We want some sort of normalcy, and the teachers, I have quotes here. The teachers say, we have told our administration that we are this and that and this and that, and then they don't want to hear that we've heard this before. We haven't heard this before. Like, everything's a nuance. So this is from them. This is a collective. So I don't know if we need to deal with more communication. We all feel isolated. I know you guys feel isolated. We all feel isolated. So when we get together, we have teachers that say, well, how am I supposed to handle this? And then, we don't have any answers. So they have to go back to somebody else to get an answer. It's like we're in firestorm mode. So I don't know what you're asking, Mr. Dunn. The HVAC thing is very important because I have a mother and myself, and I have twins and a circle of people that I hang around with that I'm concerned with. That, HVAC, we should know. It's just like the house that I owned for 15 years. My furnace has 15 log points of what has been tested, and then it's up to 85% efficiency.
I guess what I what I was looking for was something that was actionable. I just don't know how we can help you with us. We understand exactly what you were looking for. And,
Well, the main thing is people aren't sleeping at night because they want to be assured that it is safe to be in their office, that it's safe to be in room so-and-so, that it's safe to, that not is safe, that it's working properly.
fair enough.
Dr. Ripley, is the school safe?
Yes, I have signed statements of assurance to the state of New Jersey, assuring not only the state, the governor, the commissioner, the DOE, and all the relevant parties that High Point is a safe location for our students and our staff.
The HVAC system in the school working as it's supposed to?
Yes, it is. We have provided, and I don't in any way look to be contrary, but we have provided Oprah requests indicating the rate of exchange of air from the outside in each individual room, all of which in every single room meets the standards set forth. I think it's OSHA standards. And we have been deemed and determined to be safe and able to open.
That's in every room in the school, as you just said?
Every single room has been provided an exchange rate which is greater than, equal to or greater than the required exchange rate.
And that system is in complete compliance with all state regulations and requirements for health and safety, correct?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
I have not received any communication or notice that the HVAC data. So am I asking it incorrectly? Should I re-ask it?
No, I will send, we will resend you the emails that have been formerly provided, just so that you're in possession of those documents.
Dr. Ripley, if we're talking about past communications, there is no raw data of the HVAC system, of an anemometer readings of any of that.
What we have provided is in accordance with that which is required from the DOE and from the OSHA standards through our supervisor of buildings and grounds, through our attorney, and through our Mike Berta and all the facilities requirements which we have provided. If you're asking for things that are for which there is no data, we do check with our attorney. I believe that the Oprah request that was formerly submitted was, we did provide a response that was indicative of provided the information that was permissible to provide. And I don't mean that as if we're avoiding anything. I have provided the exchange rate of every single room in the building, all of which meet or exceed the required exchange rate. The filtration system meet or exceed the filtration requirements. The building is most assuredly meets or exceeds the standards for us to open. For us to close would require that we provide the state. There's a first reading of a policy for the board's consideration this evening. For the state stipulates that for us to have closed would require we provided a detailed explanation as to why we could not open. I am unable to provide such a detailed explanation, and therefore we are deemed safe to open.
Dr. Ripley, with regards, I forgot to ask one question. With regards to the HVAC system, has any department of state government, whether it be Department of Education, OSHA, Department of Health, or any other department that has jurisdiction over this issue, informed you that they believed our HVAC system was unsafe?
No, they have not.
May I speak? My Oprah requests were no records responsive to your requests, and that's from Ms. Palachek, and that was anemometer readings, and that would have to be included, which the exchange rates, I received no exchange rates. So here's what we're trying to avoid. As employees, your employers, we have the right to know what the exchange rates are. I don't want to, going to OSHA or anything else like that, you have to go to your employer first to ask for them. I have received my OPA requests back that there are no records responsive to my requests exist, and that were exchange rates.
No, the exchange rates were formally provided to you for every room in the building. I can do so as soon as I'm available. I will resend those to you for your attention. But we have provided the exchange rates of every room, I believe, since back in June. But if your request is related to the most recent OPRA request, we do check with our attorney, and we are guided by his direction regarding your request. But the exchange rates to which you're making reference have been provided, I believe, on 2 occasions.
I believe it was just for the stage, the auditorium, which is the most up-to-date building structure in the building. That doesn't include all the exchange rates of every room, bathroom, office that we.
Again,
that's okay. But Dr. Ripley, I appreciate whatever you can share.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we do appreciate everything. It is a lot of effort, I personally know, but we do appreciate all the efforts that the teachers are making and the staff are making to engage with the students and to be maintaining patience with all the technology issues and everything that do happen. So please let them know that we do care about that. All right, do we have Mr. Talame for the principal's report in athletics?
Thank you, Mr. Dona. Wanted just like to start off by saying thank you to Mrs. Duke Young for her presentation this evening and to give you a glimpse into the uncharted territory that we're all in. So thank you for that. Also, thank you, Ms. Mancuso, for your communication, and we'll work on being better on the two-way communication as much as we can. I said to the staff the other day, and kind of what Mrs. Tadona just echoed, is that we are all in this together as first year fill in the blank. Teachers, custodians, security, secretaries, counselors, support staff, paraprofessionals, whatever it may be. We're all in this as first year together, and that's exhausting. It's challenging, and we all have that internal bar that we want to meet. And I hear that from what Ms. Mancuso is talking about from the teachers as well. And we just want to do our best. And that's all that we can ask for. We are blessed by our tremendous staff. We are blessed by a tremendous student body every single day. And we're very thankful of that and these special occasions that we go through. And it's challenging. There's no doubt about it. But as long as we keep on working together, keep on communicating, two-way communication with each other, we can solve problems and work through things. But we all are hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder in all this together. And there's no doubt about it. It's like nothing we've ever seen before. And God forbid we'll ever see again in that capacity. So I'll move on to some highlights if I can. We had our back to school night virtually on September 24th. That was a never before done video. And thank you to Mr. Yardley for coordinating that. We created a website. We had teachers, administrators, counselors, all created videos to show a glimpse into the classroom. Was it like back to school night, which is probably our most fun and positive night in the district? No, it wasn't exactly the same because we didn't have 500, 600, 700 people on campus. But we had tremendous feedback from the videos. It's on our website. People can go back to it. They can go back to it and view it when they wanted to, or on that night. So we tried to make that a little bit of a unique experience for the parents, and we did have a lot of positive feedback from that. As Mrs. Leduc Young said, we are in our Spirit Week right now. We have homecoming coming this week. Of course, it looks like it may snow, but hey, it's only October, so hey, that's just the way it's going to go. But as Mrs. Leduc Young said, the most important thing that we're trying to do, and you hear it with the teachers as well, is trying to connect, right? How do you connect? Like we're all on these screens together, and building that relationship is more important now than it has ever been before. I applaud our staff and our teachers as they juggle those cohorts. I feel like they're all kind of end of September getting to a point where they're building those relationships. The students are starting to feel more comfortable, and they're starting to be able to come out of their shell a little bit. It's not easy for them either to be in the class with mask on and participating, or at home on a screen. And then we had a little bit of a shutdown for a couple weeks, and we had to restart. So what usually, and I see many teachers and former teachers on the screen here, what usually would take a couple days to build those relationships when we have our opening days of school. It takes several weeks, if not longer, to start to break down those walls and build those relationships. And we say this often, is that in March, we had relationships established in our classrooms, in our school, in our community, to be able to take that foundation and ride that out through June. We're building relationships virtually now in small cohorts. That takes time and a lot of patience. So any way that we can remain connected, we're trying to do it, and we're listening to our students and our staff members about new ways to try to do that as well. This evening, we had our academic awards program virtually again. It was a great short ceremony. We were able to honor about 125 students. So kudos to those students. They were recognized for either 4 marking periods last year of high honor roll, which, think about that, is quite the accomplishment. Going through a pandemic from March through June, finishing out the 3rd marking period, the whole 4th marking period. So to be able to achieve that in any capacity, let alone last year, is a tremendous accomplishment. We have about 15 other academic awards that we are acknowledging that we do in the fall as well. So it was great. We had upwards of about 75 that were on the Google Meet. So that was a great attendance. And again, about 125 students that were recognized. Thank you to Mrs. LeDuc Young again with her assistance, Mr. Carter, Mrs. Vandergoof for their assistance on that program, and then Mr. Yardley for his behind the scenes, making it all work, IT backbone that we are very appreciative of that department for. Hard to believe, but end of the first market period is coming up fast. November 9th is the end of the market period. And one of the things I think that we all concentrate on is this new norm. I don't want to call it new norm, but this new world that we're living in right now, hopefully not normal at all. And we are all working very, very hard, everybody, to support our students and our staff. And we know as the market period comes to a close, we're constantly looking at grades, we're constantly looking at instructional practices, and reviewing those and discussing those every single day. We're constantly seeking feedback from our staff and from our students, and tweaking things and adjusting things and adapting as we can. So we will continue to do that as we go through the marking period and work to support our instructional goals, and know that this is very different. And this is not a first market period that anybody's gone through before, and we'll continue to adapt as we go. 8th grade tours, usually we start this month talking about 8th grade tours coming up in November. We're going to invite all of our 8th graders up. It's a huge part of our 9th grade transition program, and very, very important for a 9th grade transition, but we're in a different state this year. So we will not have our 8th graders in the building. We're working with Mrs. Jackety, Mrs. Lembo, all the supervisors, Mrs. LeDuc Young, and also the IT side of things, and Mr. Fenlin from the Media Tech, to do a virtual tour for 8th graders that we're going to try to launch in December. And then January, we want to segue it with our 8th grade open house. Fingers crossed that we can have that in January. That is a huge night for our parents of incoming 8th graders and also our students. So we want to build something that's going to be a bridge for that. And if you look at any of the colleges, and many of you are parents, what are colleges doing, right? They're not having you on campus. They're doing these walking virtual tours, live virtual tours, and they're doing some pretty cool jobs with it. So modeling some of that's out there. We're going to try to do a two-phase virtual tour for 8th graders. One that will be like a live walking tour, and one that will be like a stationary, more of a presentation. So stay tuned for that. But that again will be later in December and January as a segue into our hopefully 8th grade open house for our parents. And our fall drama is Kodachrome, and that's going to be November 13th through 15th. Once again, Mrs. Teresa Riccardi is working hard. We've had to adapt and change for our theater program and what they're able to do. They, for about 2 weeks, were outside here. I'm pointing to the courtyard, not my courtyard, the seniors' courtyard, right outside this window, where they were having their rehearsals for 2 weeks while the weather was nice. So it was just an amazing thing to see them all out there reciting, working together, social distance outside. Now, obviously, it's getting cold. So there are strong guidelines that we have in place then to be able to start the rehearsals. We're looking at what we can do for that November 13th through 15th opportunity, and working with the copyright basically aspect of it, because a lot of times when we do a play or musical, as you know, you've probably seen many of them, we can't record or live stream them. But now, obviously, their world is very different. So we're working with them to allow some options for that, because we're not sure if we're going to be able to have outside participants come in as audience members. For the actual play itself, very strict adherence. Mrs. Riccardi, Mrs. Martin, coordinating that, have done a tremendous job when they're in the auditorium. They're more than 6 feet apart. They maintain their mask on. There's strong cleaning practices for all the things that are utilized. There's not really any props right now on the stage. And there's usually no more than 2 or 3 participants on a stage at once, which makes it difficult to do a play. But the fact that they're part of something, again, that connection is exciting. And when we went from being outside, we met as a team and talked about what the inside rehearsals will look like. The students were ecstatic to be able to come back after school and be part of something. That's all they yearn for, really, and everything, whether it be sports or extracurriculars, to be part of something and to be somewhat of a normal, and I use that loosely, a normal for them as well. So stay tuned for that, whether that will be, again, a virtual component or maybe just parents only if we're able to pull that off with the health and safety guidelines that we have to have in place. Any questions on that, Ms. Sedona, or anybody else before I switch over to athletics?
I just have a tongue-in-cheek comment, Mr. Talame.
Yes, Mrs. Anderson.
I really applaud your the relationships that are being built, even though everybody's covered up and having social distancing. My only suggestion is, for alliteration's sake only, that you do mask to mask Monday instead of face to face Friday.
Oh,
That's all I got. Go.
I like that. I might have to mix. So we usually do celebrate Mondays, because Mondays are, let's be honest, right? Blah, right? Mondays are Mondays for everybody in the world. So, we do celebrate Mondays. That was ours at Linga, but I like that. Mask to mask Monday. So I got mask to mask from Mr. Fuhrer. He reminded me at our first opening that I couldn't call it face to face anymore, eyes to eyes, whatever it may be. So mask to mask Mondays. I may have to pick that up, and I'll have to say that a birdie told me this in my ear. Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Okay, to switch gears to athletics, Mr. Dunn, is that okay?
Oh, yeah, please.
All right, so athletic report from Mr. Dexter. Kudos to Mr. Dexter again. Forged by fire, as we say. We all are in this as first year together. Well, he's literally first year. So we are working side by side, and he's doing an excellent job with athletics and also health and physical education. So our numbers for our fall sports is about 24% of our student body, about 210 student athletes participating. The fact that every game that we get, every competition that we get, every practice that we get is a step in the right direction, because it's something for the kids to be part of again. We're doing spectator forms, as many of you know, because I've seen many of you at some of the games. They have to be filled out, again, part of our health and safety guidelines through the NJAC, and that's working well. We have QR codes. Again, this world is different. Who would have thought you were doing QR codes at game entry points for COVID forms? You would have laughed at somebody if they said that last September, but here we are. So thanks to Jeff Jacobus and the grounds crew for getting them up and running. You can see those at each one of the events. So if you're going to a tennis, JV football game, field hockey was tonight, soccer field, you'll see those QR codes when you walk in. And then obviously getting ready for Friday night's activities as well, which will be our first home football game. We're allowed to, by state guidelines, have up to maximum of 500 spectators for outside activities. So we have NJAC has kind of a split developed within the program, about 350 or so for the home team and 150 for the away team. And again, everybody's got to go through this protocol before they get there and maintain their mask while they're on campus. So it's not just like it used to be going to a football game on a Friday night. Some of the quick updates for athletics. Fall season is underway. Every game that we get is a positive, and we are rocking and rolling in the first fall season already. So soccer, boys soccer is 4-2, girls soccer 5-0-1, tennis 3-3. State match was today. Football 1-2, big victory on Saturday, big shutout against Kittatinny, which is a great game. Field hockey's 1-4, very, very young team, working hard. In every game, I've seen them play twice now. They're right there, so close and getting better every time. Cross country boys and cross country girls, both 4-0, as well with some state meets coming up. So kudos to the fall sports team, as we are having another successful, great, outstanding, spectacular year. State playoffs are just kind of unwinding. And again, that was part of the NJSA's plan to small steps. As you get to the end of the season, let's get through the regular season, and then let's worry about the end of year conference tournaments or end of year state tournaments as we come. And we have a football picked up a Thanksgiving Eve game. And we were looking at that as a possibility early in the season. And then we decided to go with that because the football team did lose a game during the 2 weeks of virtual instruction. I was going to say closure, but that's not the right term, virtual instruction. during that time period. So we are playing Wallkill here. Dr. Dupree, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're going to do a 6 o'clock game. I think we decided on a little bit earlier because it is Thanksgiving Eve as well. So look forward to a new opportunity. Again, one more game for our students, and we're just hoping on October 27th that we get there. Governor Murphy executive order 187 out of, I don't know if it's out of 187 or 190, I don't know. It's a lot of them at this point, was to allow for indoor sports for the winter season. We don't know what that will look like yet. The NJSA released like a 3-bullet announcement shortly following that, as we expected, basically saying that December 3rd through February 2nd will be the season. And then a lot of details to follow after that. So I'm currently working with our NJAC principals, which is about 40 different schools, to develop the schedule. We actually have a meeting tomorrow morning to try to figure out what the winter sports schedule could look like, because it's obviously by conference, and then get that set up. It will be very similar probably to what our fall sports is with pods by geography, because that makes the most sense for keeping your not contamination per se, but your crossover aspect of schools as close that you can for that. So that is the athletic report, as brief as I could give it. Any questions on that?
Nope, sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, and then we have the curriculum and instruction report from Mr. Campbell.
Great to see everyone tonight. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Well, I have good news and bad news. Good news, there's a tremendous amount of good things to report upon. The bad news is it's been 6 weeks since the last board meeting, so there's a lot of it. But I will move quickly. First, last Thursday, I put out a little message to the staff on behalf of the entire administration team. And in that message, I said that this administration unanimously believes that our faculty, our entire staff, is working harder than any High Point staff at any time in history. And that the students that are struggling with this crisis are managing because of the love and support that that they are receiving. So thank you to our staff in the trenches every day, losing sleep, staying up late, working harder than ever. And we recognize that and appreciate that. It was tremendous to be back at a football game. It felt like fall. It's a little different. Mr. Fenlin and his social media ambassadors have begun to use the software Gipper, and their posts have a neat, clean, professional look to them, and all of our student athletes are out. So if you have a free afternoon, field hockey was playing today. It does really feel like it's one of the things that feels the most normal, is to be out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and hear the whistle going and watch a field hockey game, etc. And a coach's coach, Mr. Fenlin, is one of the most professional educators that we work with, and congrats to him on his 200th win. Woohoo! Leia Ruvo and Mr. Fenlin put together some tweets where they recognized all 55 High Point students who made the National AP Honor Roll. And they made that honor roll because 19 incredible teachers poured themselves into their classes. The drive and the passion and the competitiveness that AP teachers bring is really unique. And so thank you to these 19 outstanding teachers. This is the criteria for the honor roll. That means everybody on here, at a minimum, passed at least 3 AP exams. We have 40% of our students taking at least one, but we have 12% of our students being recognized nationally as AP scholars. So really outstanding accomplishment to our teachers and students on that. Mr. Talame mentioned the NJAC. We are not guiding the district, blindly. We have been in contact regularly with every high school in the county, and through Mr. Talame's NJAC Association, every high school in Morris County as well. And I'm proud to announce that our good friends to the south invited several of our teachers to speak to their staff on Thursday because they're getting ready to open with hybrid instruction, and they reached out if we would share some best practices. So we have a great relationship with Sparta, and we're honored to have our teachers present to their faculty Thursday afternoon. So since 1977, seniors have been required to demonstrate proficiency in math and language arts. So it used to be the HESPA. It was something before that. It was PARC. Now it's NJSLA. So last year obviously was unique. 41% of our seniors met the requirement by passing the state test in both English and math. Many met the requirement by passing the SAT, PSAT, ASVAB, etc. Many passed through a mix, perhaps language arts on the state test and math on the SAT, etc. And for those students who don't pass a formal assessment, they complete a portfolio, and that portfolio process was cut short. So it's important to note at the bottom, no students were denied graduation, nor have any students been in probably a decade, certainly not in the last 5 years. So testing is a requirement, but it does not end up being a barrier to graduation. And those were our pathways from last year's seniors. Mr. Drellick is organizing an ASVAB testing. All of our current seniors, many of them would have passed their state assessment in the spring, but it was canceled. So we now have an increased number of students who need to earn a qualifying score. So the ASVAB will be offered in a few weeks, and we will have approximately 100 students. And we're looking forward to many of them earning qualifying scores. Our reopening task force, our surveys, meetings. I just want to point out that 3 or 4 things I'm about to share with you all came from feedback from staff, from parents, and from students. When the school year ended in June, we surveyed students, staff, and parents. When we began preparing to open in August, we surveyed students, staff, and parents. And after the first 20 days, we surveyed all students, staff, and parents. And we put out all parents, all students, and all staff received the results of that survey. And I just want to share a couple things with you quickly. There were 10 questions on the survey, and using a Likert scale, stakeholders were asked, are you very satisfied or not very satisfied or unsatisfied? By far the area that received the highest degree of confidence was health and safety, followed by communication and a sense of community. Mixed response on social and emotional initiatives and internet connection, and the least satisfaction, the classroom, because it's incredibly challenging and it's new and it's a bit disjointed by having 3 or 4 different cohorts. In addition to those surveys, we've had a very productive series of meetings with our HPEA executive committee. We've met with a curriculum group a few times that has teachers from every department. Our supervisors have met multiple times with every department. We've had staff meetings. Mr. Talamay hosts the school improvement panel. And then we sent another survey out last week to our staff. When we saw that this was the area of greatest concern, we created a new survey instrument. 57 out of 90 responded, which is a very high response rate. And as a result of this, we are committing PD to trying to support staff to manage what's really, really tough and challenging. We have 4 in-service days built into the schedule. Our 4th and final day was Monday, October 12th, 2 weeks ago. So 2 of the 4 days were remote, and 2 of the 4 days staff were on site. And on Columbus Day, I'm really proud of the fact that we had a number of exceptional, really risk takers, to try a new piece of technology that's challenging and then to present it to your peers. It takes a bit of courage. So I want to thank our staff who did that. We had talked about Monday the 12th showing these new tools and then canceling the afternoon virtual classes the following week. But after meeting with the HPA Executive Committee, they had a better suggestion, which we utilized, which was to actually have the following 4 days between 11:30 and 12:10 have drop-in sessions where the staff who showed the teaching tool real quick on Monday could host a session where staff could drop in and have a little more time. So thank you to all those teachers who put a lot of time and energy into sharing what works for them. This Thursday and Friday, and then Monday and Tuesday of next week, we're doing something unique. It's the final 4 days of the marking period. The afternoon virtual classes will be canceled. Students have been notified that on Thursday and Friday, their job is to make up assignments or to engage in enrichment activity. But it's basically to ensure that they have work completed. Staff will be on site Thursday and Friday. On Thursday, we're going to have lunch for the staff. One of the real reasons we're doing this is because I know I speak for myself and many of our staff. Outside of our immediate family, our friendships at High Point are the next most important, valuable group of people in our lives. And so we'd like to have an atmosphere where we have some food and some time together, and we could be in the same place with some PD and talking and working on things. On Monday and Tuesday, the students will be given an activity that the administration will oversee, focused on racial justice and democracy. These are timely topics, and the great John Lewis passed away over the summer. If you didn't get a chance to see it, he wrote an essay, and he geared the essay towards young people. It's very brief, and he asked that it be published upon his death. So we're going to ask our young people to read that primary source and reflect on his message. And one of the great things about John Lewis is I'm going to have the students watch a 3-minute video, 1 minute of President Clinton, 1 minute of President Bush, and 1 minute of President Obama. Different parties, different viewpoints, all united in their admiration and respect for a person, which is something that we need to model to our students. The number one piece of staff feedback since March 18th has been this. It's more work than I've ever had before, and the minutes between my job and my family just blur. I think we've all struggled with that. And so one of the things that we've tried to do is it's a process, it's not perfect, but we're telling staff and students 6 o'clock at night, lay off the email. Doesn't mean you can't if there's something pressing. But I know as an employee, as a colleague, I do not send emails after 6 p.m. unless it's pressing. I write them, I type them, I schedule them for 7 a.m. and my colleagues get them in the morning. We're trying to carve out weekends and evenings as time where you can get away from work. This is a challenging one. We also want the connection between students who need extra help and teachers who are always willing to give it because they're so dedicated, to have some structure to that. So we've asked all teachers to designate 3 times a week when they have office hours, and students will be invited to contact them and set up an appointment. Our hope is that students see this as not I'm bothering a teacher, but I clearly have an easy opportunity, but more so that teachers can kind of have an out when students need help at 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. Maybe this could evolve into something where the students know if I need extra help, it's going to be during those designated times, so that our teachers are not on Zoom calls at 10 o'clock at night, which right now they are. They are tireless. And I'm not saying it's never going to happen or that it can't ever happen, but I hope we're going to try it for a marking period and see if the structured time connects more students who need help and allows teachers to succeed in carving out for their own wellness a distinction between work and life. Number one piece of feedback from parents was number one, the teachers are doing a great job. Number two was, I don't understand my kids' Google Classroom, Genesis, grading system, etc. Given that piece of feedback, we have adopted a school-wide system of common category weights for each class. It is imperfect. If we could have done it differently, we perhaps would have adjusted it. We have adjusted it in numerous departments to accommodate specific needs. It is challenging for the teachers, but I'm trying to explain that it was in response to feedback. And it's also in response to the fact that we needed to reduce the assessment category in an environment where students are not taking traditional summative assessments in class. We have 28% of our students are full-time virtual. To have testing be 75% of their grade when they're taking that test at home and other students are taking it in class, that to us seemed problematic. So I acknowledge this is a challenge for teachers, and I'm just giving the rationale why we incorporated that. Almost done here. CUSAC monitoring, we were notified every 3 years we get monitored. We were notified in early October that we will indeed be monitored. We now have a date of February 26th. We are working every single day to provide the state with about 2,500 pieces of evidence that correspond to the 5 areas in which we get scored. Next month, I will present to the board our self-assessment of how we believe we have done in these 5 areas. We'll ask the board to approve that. We submit that. Then we upload a massive amount of material and we get monitored February 26th. And we're quite hopeful that we present well. And I want to thank members of the board, the administration, and the faculty for serving on our CUSAC review team. And that is a lot of material. Can I answer any questions on any of that?
This is Debbie Anderson. I don't know if you can see my face on your screen. I want to have a broader statement to make to Ms. Mancuso as to the rep of the teachers and staff members in the union, Ms. Leduc Young, Mr. Talmay, you, Mr. Ripley, everybody that's working so hard to do right by our students. And this is a nightmare. And I'm looking at my fellow board members who are in the classroom all day today and having a rough time dealing with all this tonight. It is a nightmare for our entire country. I want everybody to know that we are empathetic to what's happening. And I think that what I've listened to tonight is everybody's working their darndest to do the best job they can. Nobody has an answer. And the fact that you guys are consistently monitoring, checking in, making adjustments, changing things, trying to find any way to improve our situation should be applauded. I'm talking about everybody in the building, everybody working hard from the administrative standpoint. My heart breaks for what's going on, but I applaud what you guys are doing to do the best that can happen here. That's all.
It's a team effort, and you hit the nail on the head when you listed all those people involved. So thank you for your support.
I would like to say also that obviously I completely agree with that 100%. Working in a school, I get it. I know it's exhausting. I know it's not a sustainable environment. That was something that but we are being creative and trying to think of ways to make it better, make it work. I would like to say, fortunately, High Point is, you know, on it when it comes to technology. Prior to this happening, imagine being a school that wasn't on top of technology and didn't have the people both behind the scenes and the instructors that were comfortable with technology, and then being in this environment. It's so I applaud you know, all of you that have made that transition over the years, because we'd be in a much worse scenario than we are now. And lastly, I'd like to say that even regardless of having those office hours or whether they work, to have teachers being on Zoom at 10 o'clock at night, and I know that you're not asking them to, I know they're choosing to, but for their own social emotional well-being, it's not healthy, it's not good. And I would hope that parents would not expect that, and that, you know, we understand that we have lives aside from, you know, being teachers and dedicated staff members. I applaud those who do it, but I would ask them not to. I think that the me time is really super important right now, because we're just going to get burned out people who just can't take it anymore, and that's not good either. So thank you to those who are doing it, but I do not want to see anybody you know, making themselves fried to that extent. So
Thank you.
Mr. Kimball, I have a question.
Yes.
So you mentioned the switch to category weights for grading, and you went into the reason why the decision was made. I'm
Right.
curious, what have the effects been? Have there been any effects on, you know, the average grades, the average fail rates or whatever this year compared to, do you think that's had an effect on anything?
So I put out that message last week when I said, on behalf of the administration, and we wanted to let the staff know, there was a message about the number of marking period failures that we're currently monitoring. This may sound surprising. We've reached out to Genesis. We don't know, with 12 days to go before a marking period ends, how significant our current marking period failures are. But there is always the concern that when a marking period grade is less about a traditional assessment and more about project-based learning, that let's profile some students. Some students are very bright, they recall, they can express it, and they do well on assessments. Others might be more creative and more harder working on projects. So there is always the possibility that it will have, you know, a consequence of more students struggling, or it could have a consequence of more students succeeding. The hard part is, and we'll know where we're at in another 10 or 12 days when the marking period ends. But I don't even know if we'll know, because we're not comparing apples to apples. So this is the first marking period we've ever had a hybrid in. And so to answer your question, it is always a possibility when you shift what constitutes a marking period grade, that it will have a positive or negative impact on success. We do not know what impact it's having right now. But we monitor it closely, and we have a report. The admin team meets every day, and probably at least twice a week, we go through the spreadsheet and we identify, one day we'll look at struggling students and balance it with attendance. Look, one of the greatest struggles, I got a text this morning from a teacher who was pulling his hair out and said, you know, what do I do with a student that isn't doing anything? This is not really brand new. This is since March 18th. There are students, and I think we can all understand this picture. There are students who might be at risk, might be struggling. And when you have that student in 2019 in your class, and you have a good relationship with them, and you give them something to work on for 50 minutes, as disaffected and struggling as that student might be, you can usually produce some work out of them. That mechanism is dramatically lessened. So, that's really, to me, the great struggle is struggling students succeed because of relationships with teachers, and virtually it's much harder to leverage that asset. So we will have, the next time we meet, we'll have a report, Mr. Arnold, on marking period grades, and it will be a good conversation.
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, then we're going to move on to, thank you, Mr. Campbell. We're going to move on to other business. It says a discussion about reopening school.
So real briefly, I just want to say that it has been a challenge. It has not been perfect, but again, we are a team and we have put strictures and structures in place that are hopefully as effective as possible given the hybrid structure. I want to communicate, as I've communicated to each committee during the week, that the hybrid structure was created for a reason, so as to deal with the COVID-19 issues. I believe that High Point has led the way in that, and I believe that we do it as well, if not better than anyone. But I want to also say that, and I want to say this to the community, that we are not under any misapprehension that this is a perfect construct. It's essentially like trying to hammer the square peg into the round hole. It's not easy. It is sometimes effective. It is sometimes ineffective. But we are planning and putting into place a plan to reopen, so to speak, right? So we're open, but given the fact that we're looking at approximately 30% students fully virtual, to what extent can we open to allow to ease up the burden on our teachers so that they're not teaching 3 cohorts, but rather 2, and possibly combine cohorts, possibly go full days, but we don't want to take any missteps during what has been identified now in the county as having once been green and now we're designated as yellow. But I just want the community and the board to know that we have a plan and we are prepared to proceed with that plan in the best interest of our students and in the health and safety of our students and our staff. So we're aware and we're working so as to be prepared to do what's best immediately, whether that immediately is a week, a month, or 6 months. We don't know. That's all.
Okay. We're going to move on to action items then. Ms. Smith, you have curriculum instruction technology?
I do. We have items A, 1, 2, and 3 are the faculty attendance at 98.3%, which, by the way, thank you and kudos for that. Student attendance rate, 97%. And the suspension report is enclosed in the attachment. So then we are going to make a motion seeking a second of items A4 to approve the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report for the period of September 15th, 2020 through October 27th, 2020.
Second.
Then I am going to move items, let's see, 5 through 8 together. So items, making a motion, seeking a second for recommended, number 5, recommended that the board recognize there are no field trips. I guess that doesn't matter. Yeah, you're muted.
I think we have to vote on the item 4 because you moved it singly, so we have to vote on it, right?
Yes.
4, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. I meant to move them all together, but it was not. I didn't say that properly. So, okay. So go ahead, Tina, I guess.
So is this any discussion on items 1 through 4? No.
No.
Okay, hearing none. Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe,
Yes.
Ms. Nugent,
Yes.
Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Sedona,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay. And all right. So now this time, sorry about that, folks. I am going to actually, we'll just move the rest of the items 5 through 12 together. So making a motion, seeking a second for items 5 is recognize or no curricular field trips for this year. Approves per number 6 is approving the professional development activities as listed. Number 7 is approve the district nursing service plan for the 2021 school year as outlined in the code. Number 8, approving the resolution authorizing High Points LLD class to receive monthly guidance related to transition services from NJARC. And a regular schedule of guest speakers will deliver the training to High Point students, and training will be provided at no cost to the board. Number 9 is recommending that the board approve the revised 2020-21 school year calendar as attached. Number 10, approve the use of Special Olympics Unified Physical Education Program as part of our curriculum for the 2021 school year, as outlined in the Unified Champion Schools Commitment Form as attached. Number 11, approve the revised list of the NJDOE Interdistrict Choice on Roll other students for the 2021 school year. And last but not least, number 12, that we approve the revised CUSAC Quality Single Accountability Continuum Team members as listed. There we go.
Any discussion?
Second.
There. Any discussion?
Second.
Okay.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe,
Yes.
Ms. Nugent,
Yes.
Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Sedona,
Yes.
all items carried.
Okay, moving on to personnel. I'm going to move items 1 through 3. It's recommended that the board approves Robin Norman, the part-time paraprofessional aide, retroactively from September 3rd for 2020 for the 2020-21 school year as listed. Number 2, it's recommended that the board approves Mr. Mitchell Fogarty as a substitute teacher. And number 3, that the board approves Kira Woodbrook as the student worker in the school store effective October 23rd, 2020 for the school year at the listed rate. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe,
Yes.
Ms. Nugent,
Yes.
Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Sedona,
Yes.
all items carried.
Okay, then we have extracurricular. Mr. Arnold, you got that?
Certainly do. I'm going to move items 1 through 3 all at once. Number 1, it is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education accepts the resignation of Jesse Strell as assistant boys tennis coach effective for the 2021 season. Number 2, the board rescinds the appointment of Leanna Hennings as yearbook advisor effective immediately for the 2021 school year. And number 3, it is recommended that the board approves the extracurricular appointments as outlined in attachment C1. Make a motion seeking a second.
Second.
Great. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Sedona?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
All carried.
Okay, moving on to policy. We have a couple of first readings here. It's recommended by the superintendent. The board approves the first reading of the following new policies. We have policy 1648.03, the restart and recovery full-time remote instruction. Policy 5330.05, seizure action plan, and then it's regulation 5330.05, seizure action plan. And policy 6470.01, the electronic funds transfer and claimant clarification. And then it's a correlating regulation of 6470.01, electronic funds transfer and claimant certification. I'm making a motion, seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Sedona?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, and then we have a bunch of revised policies and regulations. We have policy 1620 about the administrative employment contracts, policy 1648 restart and recovery plan, policy 1648.02 remote learning options for families, policy 2431 athletic competition with its corresponding regulation 2431.1 emergency procedures for sports and other athletic activity. And then we have policy 2464, gifted and talented students, policy 5200, attendance, regulation 5200, attendance, policy 5610, suspension, regulation 5610, suspension procedures, and then policy 5620 about expulsion, policy 6440, cooperative purchasing, policy 7440, school district security, regulation 7440, school district security, policy 7450, property inventory, policy 7510, use of school facilities, and regulation 7510, use of school facilities, policy 8320, personnel records, and its regulation of personnel records, policy 8420, emergency and crisis situation, and policy 8561, procurement procedures for school nutrition programs. Making the motion, seeking the second.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Sedona?
Yes.
All carried.
Okay, and Mr. Arnold, we're going to move to you for negotiations.
Fantastic. There's only one item. Item number 1, the Board of Education hereby approves the sidebar agreement with the High Point Education Association regarding the payment of coaching and extracurricular stipends in attachment E1. Make a motion, seeking a second.
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 Any discussion? Great.
I
Roll
would
call,
just
please.
like to thank the
sorry.
association for the what I believe was the equitable and professional manner in which this was handled. Thank you, Ms. Mancuso, and all those involved. I appreciate the way that this was managed. Thank you.
Dr. Ripley, to benefit the public that may be listening, would you mind just giving a synopsis of what this entails?
Yes, sir. So last spring, I think it was, the governor issued an executive order that formerly it was not permissible, I think, by statute that contracts could not be paid by entities without services rendered. So the governor issued an executive order stating that during the COVID crisis, that all contracts would be paid in full, irrespective of whether or not services were rendered. And so what happened is we proceeded with preparing for the school year. We have agreed on contracts and appointments. And so what this does is it allows the board the ability to proceed with appointments for coaching stipend positions for the winter and spring sports without having to with some protection. And so what it stipulates is that formerly, if the season had been canceled and we needed a coach and we had approved the coach beforehand, formerly, according to the executive order, that would have been 100%, which doesn't give, they would have been paid 100% of the contract without having rendered services. That doesn't give the board any protection, and it's not very viable to the community. But the community also recognizes the importance of coaching and approving coaches and having excellent coaches in position for our children. So what we did was we came to an agreement where there are gradations of pay based upon the length of the season and should it be canceled. And so I think it was equitable to both sides, not perfect for both sides, but certainly equitable to the board and palatable to the community, and obviously palatable to the association.
Thank you. And we all hope that we don't have to utilize that sidebar agreement at all. We all want to see winter and spring sports go off as planned.
Yes, we do.
Any other discussion? Great. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe,
Yes.
Ms. Nugent,
Yes.
Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Ms. Sedona,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, since there are no items for buildings and ground, we're going to move on to finance. Mr. Dunn?
Certainly. So I would like to move all items 1 through 9 in finance together. Item 1 is a recommendation to accept the report of the Board Secretary and Business Administrator for the month of September 2020. Item 2 is a recommendation to accept the report of the Treasurer for the month of September 2020 and a certification thereof. Item 3 is a recommendation to approve the report of the transfers and minimum expense transfer report for the month of September 2020. Item 4 is a recommendation that the board approves the payments, the attached schedule of audited bills dated October 27th, 2020. Item 5 is a recommendation to accept the adult education agency account, athletic account, cafeteria account, principals, petty cash account, scholarship account, school store account, and student activities for the month of September 2020. Item 6 is a recommendation that the board accepts a Unified Champion Schools grant in the amount of $2,500 from Special Olympics New Jersey for the 2020-2021 school year. Item 7 is a recommendation that the board approves and authorizes execution of the following tuition contracts between High Point Regional High School as a sending district and the following districts and related information as listed in the agenda. And item 8 is a recommendation that the board approves Wantage Excavating Company to perform work related to the winter maintenance snow removal during the 2020-2021 school year. And item 9 is a recommendation that the board approves the Comprehensive Maintenance Plan, CMP, and the M1 form for the 2020-2021 school year. I make the motion on items 1 through 9. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on any of those items? Doesn't look like any. Could I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe,
Yes.
Ms. Nugent,
Yes.
Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Sedona,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
all carry.
Okay, and then we have transportation. Mr. Caraza?
I'd like to move all the items 1 through 8 together. Item 1 recommends the approval and authorization of contract for transportation of students to and from school for the 2021 school year is listed. Item 2 recommends the approval of a contract addendum for the deletion of a bus aid for the 2020-21 school year as listed. Item 3 recommends the approval of a quoted contract for transportation of special needs students for the 2020-21 school year as listed. Item 4 recommends the approval of the execution of a joint transportation agreement for the 2020-21 school year as listed. Item 5 recommends the approval of another joint transportation agreement for the 2020-21 school year as listed. Item 6 recommends the approval of a joint transportation agreement for the 2020-21 school year as listed. Item number 7 recommends the approval of a joint transportation agreement for the AM transportation for a 2020-21 school year as listed. Item number 8 recommends the approval of a joint transportation agreement for the transportation of students for the 2020-21 school year as listed on the next several pages. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask for a roll call.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Mr. Antcliff,
Yes.
Ms. Nugent,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Tadona,
Yes.
Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
all carry.
Okay. Good job. That was lots of pages, Mr. Caraza. Good job. All right. Then we'll move on to the long-term planning, which there are no items, unless somebody else says something. All right. And then legal. Gonna move number 1. The board hereby approves a settlement agreement. Oh, wait. Yeah, in the matter of High Point Regional Board of Education and High Point Regional Education Association, docket number AR 2020-375, and authorizes the superintendent, business administrator, and board attorney to take all steps necessary and appropriate to carry out this action of the board. Need a motion, seek a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Mr. Antcliff,
Yes.
Ms. Nugent,
Yes.
Mr. Caraza,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Tadona,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, and I'm not aware of any correspondence. Okay. Miscellaneous, school board mandated training. Please make sure that you have done that. And if you need help with scheduling any of that, please contact the board office. And then we're moving on to public comments, and we seem to still have no public comments. So I think that and then are there any non-committee board member reports or comments? Anybody else have anything to say?
I just want to share, and I'm pretty sure Dr. Ripley sent this out to the community, but shared it with us as well, in regards to the food pantry needs, that we have several families that are in need. And so if anybody to make a donation to the food pantry, that can be dropped off in room 420 after 11:20 a.m. They're looking for things like the canned fruits and vegetables, rice, hearty soups, stews, crackers, things of that nature. So obviously everybody's times are tight, but if you can pick up an extra can of soup when you're food shopping and send it in, that would be greatly appreciated, I'm sure.
Ms. Smith, you beat me to that request. We have so many charities and all of them are excellent, but really when you get down to it, the basics are food and shelter. And
And this is going right to our home and our students, right?
I think it's a wonderful cause, and hopefully the members of the public and the school system themselves will continue to support this food bank, because it really is helping. I think people would be shocked to know how many people and how many families in our community it is helping at this time. And there is no more basic need than food. So I applaud those who work it, and I ask anybody who has the ability to donate anything they can to this food bank in a wonderful cause.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? All right, then. Oh, wait, sorry. Then there's other business. For the purpose of the public disclosure and in accordance with the Open Public Records Act, the High Point Regional High School Board Office has received and responded to the following open requests over the past 2 months. Did you want to say anything about that, Ms. Palasek?
Yes, we received 2 OPA requests. The second one was actually a 4-part with different areas that they were seeking information. The first one received on the 5th. We completed it and got the response back by the 6th of October with all of the maintenance logs that showed when the filters were changed and routine work that was completed on them. The second OPA request, which was a 4-part, we received on the 13th. We responded on the 14th. That was for the HVAC anemometer logs that were mentioned earlier. There was no response to that because schools are not required to use anemometer in the school. So that was why that answer was how it was. And the total time for all of the requests were 5 hours. We do have a new request that we will be reporting on next meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Then if there's...
I have a question. Can you explain, if there were no anemometer logs to be presented, why it's a 3-hour process? Explain that a little bit more. It looks to me like you guys spent 3 hours putting this together, but then you just said there was no information.
Mr. McGrath, our facilities director, spent a lot of time researching in his reference books. He called other facility directors to find out if they had the anemometer logs. He then called someone that he knows who teaches the courses for the state, and it was confirmed at that point that there is no need for a school. It's not required of the school. I believe it goes under the commercial code to have those readings maintained and logged. And we referenced it back to our board attorney to ensure that our response was accurate. And that's why it did take more time, because we wanted to make sure that the answer that we provided was complete and as valid and accurate as possible.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, then can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those, any opposed? Well, I guess we can just do that, right? Okay. All right, then we are adjourned.